I never expected a routine morning shift to destroy everything I thought I knew about my life. I'm Dr. Olivia Carter, an internist at Briarwood Medical Center where secrets walk in quietly and explode without warning. My patient that day was Elliot Grant, the reclusive tech billionaire whose silence was as famous as his inventions. I had examined CEOs, senators, even celebrities, but none of them ever made my blood run cold the way he did. It happened the moment he rolled up his sleeve. There, on the inside of his wrist was a tattoo, two interlocking circles, faded with time. The exact same tattoo my mother has hidden for 30 years. My breath caught. My voice broke into a whisper I couldn't stop. "Sir, my mother has a tattoo just like yours." Elliot froze, then fell to his knees in front of me. And in that instant, my entire world cracked open. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. Billionaires don't fall to their knees, not in movies, not in real life, and definitely not in a sterile examination room with a beeping heart monitor and a wall full of anatomy charts. But Elliot Grant, worth over $20 billion, was kneeling right in front of me. His hands trembled as he looked up at me, breath unsteady. "Say it again," he whispered. "Please, say it again." I swallowed hard, my throat tightening. I said, "My mother has a tattoo just like yours." A sharp, wounded sound escaped him. Not pain, something deeper, something like recognition. He lifted his wrist and stared at the interlocking rings as if seeing them for the first time in decades. "Rebecca," he breathed. "Oh God, Rebecca. I'm also pretty. It in true more in the medius." My stomach dropped. "Rebecca Carter? You know her?" He shut his eyes, and when he opened them again, tears had already gathered. "Know her?" His voice cracked. "I spent half my life regretting losing her." The room tilted slightly. I gripped the counter behind me. "What are you talking about? My mother never told me any of this." He reached up, placing a shaking hand on my wrist, not to hold me, but as if he needed something to anchor himself. "Olivia, how old are you?" 31. His face collapsed. A man's whole soul breaking in real time. 31. He repeated breathlessly. "The same year she disappeared from my life." I felt heat rushing through my chest, a mixture of fear, confusion, and anger I didn't understand yet. "Mr. Grant, you're scaring me. You need to sit down." But he didn't move. Instead, Elliot clasped both my hands in his like a man drowning, reaching for air. "Listen to me," he pleaded. "I didn't know she had a daughter. I didn't know she had you." My pulse hammered painfully. Why would that matter? He looked at me not like a patient looking at his doctor, not like a billionaire looking at a stranger, but like a father staring at a truth he never allowed himself to imagine. "Because," he whispered, "if your mother is Rebecca, then you are—" His voice broke. "You might be my daughter." I jerked back, almost knocking over the blood pressure cart. No, you can't just say something like that." But he wasn't backing down. His voice was desperate, raw, almost childlike in its vulnerability. "Let me see her," he begged. "Please. I need to talk to Rebecca. I need to explain everything." My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the monitors. Because a terrible, impossible thought had just lodged itself in my chest. What if he was telling the truth? I don't remember driving home. I don't remember grabbing my keys, my coat, or even telling the hospital I was stepping out. All I remember is Elliot's last sentence echoing in my skull. "You might be my daughter." The words clung to me like smoke, thick and choking. My mother was folding laundry when I burst through the apartment door. "Mom," I gasped. "We need to talk." She looked up casually until she saw the trembling in my hands. "Olivia? Honey, what happened? Did something go wrong at work?" I didn't answer. I reached for her wrist, for the tattoo, for the truth. She jerked back instantly, clutching her arm to her chest. "Don't," she snapped, so sharp it cut the air. "Don't touch that." My heart twisted. "Mom, why do you have that tattoo? What does it mean? Who gave it to you?" Her face drained of color. "Olivia, no. Please don't go there." But it was too late. A knock thundered on our front door. My mother froze like prey, sensing a predator. I opened it. Elliot Grant stood in the hallway. No bodyguards. No chauffeur. Just a billionaire with eyes rimmed red, breathing like he'd run miles just to get here. "Rebecca," he whispered. My mother staggered back as if she'd been shot. "No," she choked. No, you can't be here. Get out." "Rebecca, please, get out!" she screamed, voice breaking violently. "You ruined me once. You will not ruin my daughter." I spun toward her. "Mom, what is going on?" But she was shaking uncontrollably, tears streaming down her cheeks as she pointed at Elliot like he was a ghost. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "He left me. He abandoned me. His family, his people forced me out of his life. They threatened me, Liv. They threatened us. I ran because I had no choice." Elliot stepped inside, hands raised like a man walking through fire. "Rebecca, I didn't know," he pleaded. "I swear to you, I didn't know they sent people. I was young. I was stupid. I listened to my father and I lost everything." "Liar," she cried. "You let them take our child away." My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. "Our child?" I croaked. Mom covered her mouth. Elliot looked at me with hollow, broken eyes. "I never knew you existed," he whispered. "Rebecca never told me she was pregnant. If I had known, I would have moved heaven and earth to find you." Silence drowned the room. Then my mother collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. And I stood between them, between past betrayal and present desperation, realizing my entire life had just split into before and after. Because the truth was no longer avoidable. My mother had been hiding a father, and now he was standing in my living room. For the next 2 days, the apartment felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. My mother refused to leave her room. I refused to sleep. And Elliot Grant refused to disappear. He came back the very next morning. I heard the knock while pouring coffee, and my entire body stiffened. I opened the door just a crack. Elliot stood there, soaked from the rain, holding a bouquet of white lilies, my mother's favorite. "Is she here?" he asked softly. "Please, Olivia, let me apologize." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "Mr. Grant, you need to stop coming here," I said firmly. "My mother's not ready." "I know she hates me," he murmured. "She has every right to. But I need her to know the truth. I didn't choose to leave her. My family—" I cut him off. "Even if that's true, it doesn't fix the 30 years she spent alone." He bowed his head, rain dripping from his white hair. "I know. That's why I'm here." He handed me the lilies and an envelope. "Give these to her," he whispered. "Tell her I'm sorry." I was about to refuse, but something in his face, exhaustion, regret, love that had aged instead of dying, softened me. "I'll try," I said quietly. When I brought the flowers into the apartment, my mother didn't even look at them. "Throw them away," she muttered, wiping her tears. "I don't need his pity." But she didn't stop me from placing them gently on the counter. The next afternoon, Elliot returned again. Then again, each time with letters, flowers, or a quiet request for a second chance. Each time, my mother refused to see him. And each time, Elliot's visits grew longer and more noticeable. The neighbors whispered. People stared from their windows. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. I should have realized what was coming. By the end of the week, it was everywhere. Elliot Grant seen visiting rundown apartment in Eastbrook. Secret family? Billionaire spotted leaving building 3 times in 1 week. Who is the woman he keeps bringing flowers to? Then, the headline that changed everything. Does Elliot Grant have a hidden daughter? My hospital locker was stuffed with printed articles. Colleagues whispered the moment I walked by. Some stared like I was contagious. Others like I was famous. But the worst came when I stepped outside toward the parking lot. A swarm of reporters descended like vultures. "Dr. Carter, are you his love child? Are you after his money? Did your mother hide you on purpose? Are you ready to claim the Grant empire?" Microphones hit my face. Hands grabbed my coat. Camera flashes burned my vision. I shoved past them, heart pounding, ears ringing. When I finally reached my car, my hands trembled so badly I dropped the keys twice. I wasn't ready for this. My mother wasn't ready for this. And for the first time, I felt a spark of anger toward Elliot. Because his attempts to fix the past had just ruined our present. And something told me the worst was still coming. I tried to avoid the news for days, but it didn't matter. Elliot's face, my face in male form, almost was everywhere. And then the breaking headline hit. Billionaire Elliot Grant hospitalized after cardiac episode. My breath vanished. I dropped the coffee mug in my kitchen. It shattered across the tiles. He was at St. Augustine Medical Center, the sister hospital to mine. I told myself I went as a doctor, not as the daughter he might have lost. Not as the child he claimed he would have moved heaven and earth to find. But when I entered his private recovery room, the truth hit me like a punch. Elliot looked small. Shallow breaths. Skin pale. Eyes unfocused until he heard my voice. "Olivia, you came." The words were barely a whisper. I swallowed hard. "I'm only here to check your vitals. Some taking. You came," he repeated, a faint smile trembling on his lips, ignoring my formality. "Thank you. I didn't know if you would." I turned away to check his monitors, not ready to face the fragile man in the bed. "You shouldn't have gone to our apartment," I muttered. "You put us in danger." "Your mother deserves the truth," he said softly. Maybe she deserved peace more. He closed his eyes at that, the guilt deepening the lines on his face. When his nurse asked me to escort him back to his mansion for continued private care, I agreed reluctantly. The Grant estate was another world. Marble pillars, fountains, expensive cars lined like soldiers. I felt instantly out of place. Inside, the mansion smelled of cold stone and money. Elliot leaned on me as we walked in. Fragile, breath shallow. I was helping him toward the grand staircase when a voice sharp as broken glass cut through the silence. "Well, well," a woman sneered, stepping out from the hallway. "So, this is her." Veronica Grant. His wife. Tall, elegant, a silk black bun twisted on her head like a crown of thorns. Behind her stood a younger man in an expensive suit, jaw clenched, eyes filled with poison. Landon Grant. His only acknowledged child. Veronica's gaze sliced over me from head to toe. "This is the woman the tabloids are calling your secret daughter?" She laughed bitterly. "Really, Elliot? This?" Her hand gestured at me like I was dirt tracked inside on her marble floors. I stiffened. "I'm Dr. Carter," I said clearly. "I'm here to make sure Mr. Grant is safely stabilized." "You're here," Veronica hissed, stepping closer, "because you smell money. I seen foreseeing that idea it must brings. Today for Mollis," Landon added with a smirk. "Gold diggers come in all shapes now, huh?" Blood boiled behind my ribs. But Elliot suddenly grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't speak to her like that," Elliot rasped. "She is—" Veronica's eyes widened. "What, Elliot? What is she?" He opened his mouth, but his breath faltered. His knees buckled, alarms went off, and right there, in the center of his perfect, polished mansion, Elliot collapsed into my arms. Elliot's collapse turned the entire mansion into chaos. "Call 911, I shouted, lowering him to the marble floor. His skin was cold, too cold. His pulse slipped beneath my fingers like water. Veronica shrieked. "What did you do to him?" Landon lunged toward me, but I snapped. "Touch me and I swear you'll be explaining to the police why you assaulted a physician during a medical emergency." He froze. Paramedics arrived within minutes, rushing Elliot back to the hospital. I rode in the ambulance beside him, my hands pressing oxygen tubing into place as he drifted in and out of consciousness. "Olivia," he whispered weakly. I'm so sorry." "Save your breath," I said, blinking away tears. "Just stay awake." But something in me knew he wouldn't. Something in the way his fingers loosened around mine. 3 hours later, the attending physician stepped into the waiting room, eyes solemn. "I'm sorry. He didn't make it." My knees gave out. It felt like the floor fell away, and I dropped into nothingness. A man I barely knew yet somehow mattered more than I could explain was gone. I didn't realize I was crying until someone touched my shoulder. It was my mother. She must have rushed here the moment she heard. She wrapped her arms around me, whispering, "Oh, Olivia. Oh, honey. I'm so sorry." I clung to her like a child. Because pain, even for a stranger, becomes unbearable when that stranger might be your father. The funeral was announced 2 days later. Private, family only. But then a black envelope arrived at our apartment. Inside, invitation, at the request of the deceased. Signed by Elliot's personal attorney. My mother hesitated. "Liv, are you sure we should go?" "Veronica will." "I don't care," I said. "He asked for us. I'm going." She nodded quietly. "Then I'll go with you." Treat Helena Cathedral was enormous, cold stone rising like a fortress. Rain hammered the roof as if grieving too. Inside, everyone wore designer black politicians, CEOs, shareholders, all staring at us. Whispers spread like wildfire. "That's her. The secret daughter. Look at them, how shameless." My mother squeezed my hand, breath shaky. When we reached the first pew, Veronica stood abruptly, blocking our path. Her voice rang through the entire cathedral. "You are not welcome here." Everyone turned. Landon stepped beside her, glaring. "You're an embarrassment, get out." I felt my face burn. "Mr. Grant invited us," I said quietly. "His lawyer." "I don't care," Veronica snapped. "This is my husband's funeral. And you," she pointed at my mother, "are nothing but a mistake he should have forgotten." Gasps echoed across the pews. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. "I just want to say goodbye." "No," Veronica hissed. "Get out." The priest hesitated, but said nothing. No one stopped them. No one defended us. So we walked out under hundreds of accusing eyes into the pouring rain. My mother sobbed into her hands on the church steps. I wrapped my arms around her, my heart burning with humiliation and rage. As the cathedral bells tolled behind us, one truth became painfully clear. They planned to erase us, and they had no idea. I wasn't going to let them. 3 days after the funeral, when the humiliation still sat like a stone in my chest, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Dr. Carter? This is Samuel Whitford, Mr. Grant's personal attorney. I need you and your mother to come to my office this afternoon. It's regarding the reading of Mr. Grant's will." My mother froze when I told her. "Olivia, I can't face them again," she whispered. "Not after what they did at the cathedral." I took her hands gently. "They don't get to decide where we belong, Mom. Not today." And so, that afternoon, we walked into a 30th floor law office overlooking the entire city. 2 women in simple black clothes, surrounded by glass, steel, and power. Inside the conference room sat the people I least wanted to see. Veronica Grant. Cold, rigid, a storm in designer heels. Landon Grant. Smirking like a man about to win a game he'd rigged himself. Their eyes narrowed the moment we stepped in. "Well," Veronica said, her lips curling. "The strays have arrived." My mother stiffened. I squeezed her hand. Before anyone could speak further, Attorney Whitford entered with a thick sealed folder. "Everyone, thank you for coming. Today, as executor of Mr. Elliot Grant's estate, I will read his final will." Veronica flipped her hair confidently. "Let's get this over with. I already know what belongs to me." Whitford adjusted his glasses. "I must remind everyone to remain silent until I finish reading." He opened the folder, and the room held its breath. "To my wife, Veronica Grant, I leave the Seabrook Summer House and a trust fund of $2 million. Veronica's jaw dropped. "Excuse me? That property is practically pocket change," Whitford continued as if she hadn't spoken. "To my son, Landon Grant, I leave my collection of vintage cars and 1% of my shares in Grant Biotech. Asterisk." Landon bolted upright. 1%? That's a joke. I'm his heir." Veronica hissed at the lawyer. "Read it again." But Whitford didn't pause. His next words shattered the room. "To Dr. Olivia Carter, I leave the remainder of my estate." Asterisk. Silence. Then, "What remainder?" Veronica demanded. Whitford looked directly at me. "All of it. All shares, all companies, all real estate holdings, all accounts, and all proprietary patents. Mr. Grant has designated Olivia Carter as the primary beneficiary of his entire empire." My mother gasped. Veronica screamed. Landon slammed both fists onto the table so hard a pen cup toppled over. "No, that girl manipulated him," Landon shouted. "She slithered into his life when he was vulnerable." Whitford raised a hand. "There is more." He pulled out a sealed DNA folder. "Mr. Grant conducted a private paternity test 3 months ago. The results confirm a 99.8% biological match between Elliot Grant and Olivia Carter. I mingers now in UK and now in the Mar Clade she." My breath left my lungs. He had known. He had known before he died. Veronica's face turned ghostly white. "This is forged," she spat. "We will challenge this in court. I will bury both of you." Landon pointed at me, eyes wild. "You think you can steal our life? Our legacy? You're nobody." I rose slowly, my voice steady despite the storm shaking inside me. "I didn't steal anything. This wasn't my choice. It was his." "Liar!" Landon lunged at me, knocking over a chair. 2 security guards rushed in, grabbing him before he could reach me. He thrashed, screaming, "She will not take what's mine." Whitford slammed the folder shut. "Mr. Landon Grant, this behavior is unacceptable. Legal action will follow if this continues. Veronica shook with fury, eyes burning into me as if she wanted to tear my life apart with her bare hands. This isn't over, she whispered venomously. We will destroy you. I turned, wrapping an arm around my mother. No, I said quietly. You already tried. And as we walked out of that glass tower, I realized the empire of the man who might have been my father now rested on my shoulders. And his real family wanted to crush me for it. The lawsuit came faster than I expected. 2 days after the will reading, Veronica Grant stood on the steps of the Grant Biotech headquarters in a black suit and sunglasses, microphones shoved in her face. My husband was not mentally competent, she announced, voice cold and theatrical. We will fight this fraudulent will with every legal resource we have. Landon stood behind her, jaw clenched, glaring into the cameras, and then my name. Dr. Olivia Carter took advantage of a dying man. She manipulated him. She deceived him. She is after money, not truth. The reporters ate it up like candy. By evening, my face was blasted across every channel. Illegitimate daughter accused of fraud. The Grant Empire under attack. Who is Olivia Carter, really? I wanted to scream. I wanted to hide. Instead, I stood in the kitchen gripping the counter while my mother stroked my hair like she used to when I was a child. Liv, listen to me, she whispered. The truth always wins. But I had seen the world. Truth didn't always win. Power did. The Washington State Supreme Court was crowded reporters, spectators, investors, angry shareholders. Flashing cameras blinded me as I walked in holding my mother's hand. Inside, Veronica and Landon sat at the plaintiff's table with an army of lawyers in $1,000 suits. When they saw me, Landon smirked. Ready to lose everything you stole? I didn't steal anything. You stole my father, he snapped. That's worse. Something inside me cracked, but I held my chin up. Our lawyer, Samuel Whitford, squeezed my shoulder. We have the truth. They have noise. Stay calm. The judge entered. All rise. My heartbeat thundered as the trial began. Veronica's lawyer stood first, pacing dramatically. Your Honor, Mr. Grant was a physically frail, emotionally compromised man. He was vulnerable. He was influenced. He was manipulated. He pointed directly at me. By her. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. I felt my mother clutch my arm. She wormed her way into his life, the lawyer continued. Suddenly he changes his will drastically, illogically right before death. Coincidence? We think not. Then Veronica took the stand. She put on tears like an actress switching roles. My husband wasn't himself, she sniffled. He was confused. He rambled about mistakes. He said strange things. He wasn't capable of making rational decisions. Landon followed. She is a scammer, he spat, pointing at me. A parasite living off our family name. She doesn't deserve a penny. The judge pounded his gavel. Mr. Grant, one more outburst and you will be removed. But Landon kept glaring at me like he wanted to tear me apart. When it was our turn, Whitford stood calmly. Your Honor, the plaintiffs present emotion, not evidence. We present facts. He handed a stack of documents to the clerk. Exhibit A. Elliot Grant's full psychological evaluation, signed by 3 independent specialists, confirming he was mentally competent throughout his final months. Gasps. Landon's jaw clenched. Exhibit B. A private DNA test Mr. Grant ordered months before meeting Dr. Carter, proving with 99.8% certainty that she is his biological daughter. Veronica's face went white. Exhibit C. The unredacted handwritten will, along with video and audio recordings of the signing. Mr. Grant states, in his own words, I am of sound mind. I leave my estate to my daughter, Olivia Carter. Whitford glanced at Veronica. Notice he says daughter. Not acquaintance, not stranger. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged the gavel repeatedly. Then Whitford said softly, Your Honor, we would like to call Dr. Olivia Carter to the stand. Has no beatter. My throat tightened. I walked up, sat, and took the oath. The courtroom blurred at the edges. Dr. Carter, Whitford began gently. Did you ever ask Mr. Grant for money? No. Did you ever threaten him? No. Did Mr. Grant ask to be part of your life? Yes. My voice cracked. But I wasn't ready. Why? I swallowed, tears burning my eyes. Because he was a stranger. And because my mother had lived 30 years in pain. I didn't want to open that wound again. Whitford nodded. Last question, did you love him? The courtroom held its breath. I looked down at my trembling hands. Finally, I whispered. I didn't know him long. But yes, I think I did. My mother sobbed quietly behind me. Something shifted in the room. Even the judge softened. When Veronica's lawyer cross-examined me, he sneered. Admit it, you wanted his empire. Before I could respond, Landon shot up, red with rage. She's lying, he roared, lunging toward me. She'll burn before she touches what's mine. Security guards tackled him to the floor. The courtroom exploded in chaos. The judge banged his gavel so hard it echoed like gunshots. Mr. Landon Grant is hereby removed from this courtroom. As guards dragged Landon out, screaming my name like a threat, I sat frozen, shaking uncontrollably. But something inside me shifted. Fear disappeared, replaced by fire. After hours of deliberation, the judge returned. We find that the will of Elliot Grant is valid and enforceable. Full inheritance is awarded to Dr. Olivia Carter, legal heir. Gasps, applause, outrage. Slowly, trembling, I exhaled. It was over. Veronica slumped in her seat, defeated, her empire slipping through her fingers. As the courtroom emptied, my mother hugged me tightly. You did it, Liv. No, I whispered. We did, but deep down I knew this wasn't a victory. It was an ending, and a beginning. One that would change everything. Winning the case didn't feel like victory. It felt like quiet after an explosion, thick, suffocating, full of dust and echoes. The Grant Empire now legally belonged to me, but I didn't touch a single dollar for weeks. I barely slept, barely ate, barely understood what my life had turned into. All I knew was one thing. I didn't want his fortune. I wanted his years. The years we never got. Liv, maybe it's time to start over, my mother said one morning as she brewed coffee, hands still trembling from months of stress. We were sitting in our tiny kitchen, sunlight filtering through the cracked blinds. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. What do you think about the coast? She asked softly. You always loved the ocean. I did. The ocean didn't judge. The ocean didn't scream in courtrooms. The ocean didn't pretend to be family, only to turn violent. So we packed our things, just 2 suitcases each, and left the city behind. A month later, we stood in front of a small cedar house on a cliff in Port Townsend, overlooking the Puget Sound. Waves crashed against the rocks below, like the heartbeat of a calmer world. This, my mother whispered, feels like a place we can breathe. And it was. I met with attorney Whitford again, slid the inheritance portfolio across his desk, and told him, I don't want to run an empire. I want to rebuild a life. He nodded knowingly. So, we worked out a plan. I kept minor shares, not enough to control the company, but enough to protect it from corruption. A professional board took over full operations. Veronica and Landon received the assets granted to them in the will and nothing more. I placed most of the fortune in a foundation, not in Elliot's name, but in hers, the Rebecca Foundation, dedicated to helping single mothers, abandoned children, and families pushed aside by power and wealth just like she had been. When my mother saw the sign for the first time, her knees buckled and she cried in my arms. I never wanted revenge, she whispered. But this is healing. And I realized she was right. Weeks passed. Our lives settled into a gentle rhythm. Every morning, I drank coffee on the porch watching the sunrise paint the water. Every afternoon, my mother tended lavender bushes growing along the steps. Every evening, we cooked dinner while music played softly from the radio. One sunset, as the sky turned gold and the ocean shimmered like a moving mirror, my mother sat beside me. Liv, she said quietly. You remind me of him. I stiffened. Not the man he became, she added quickly, but the boy I loved. The boy who promised me the world with a tattoo on his wrist. I looked at my own wrist, bare but tingling with, I think he tried, Mom, I murmured. At the end, I think he finally tried. She nodded, eyes glossy. And I think, she whispered, he'd be proud of who you are. A breeze swept past us, carrying the scent of lavender and sea salt. For the first time in months, I let myself imagine Elliot standing there older, softer, forgiven, smiling faintly as the wind carried him home. I whispered into the wind, goodbye. Standing on that cliff, the waves crashing below, the wind sweeping through my hair, I finally understood. The empire he left me wasn't about money. It wasn't about power. It wasn't even about justice. It was about truth, the truth of who I was, the truth of who my mother had been, the truth of what he had spent a lifetime regretting. As the sky faded into evening blue, I took my mother's hand. "We're okay now," I said. She squeezed back. "Yes, we finally are." And for the first time since Elliot Grant rolled up his sleeve in my exam room, revealing a tattoo that changed everything, I felt free.